MA1 Part D. Cost Accounting. Chapter 8. Job, Batch, and Process Costing. The topics that this presentation will cover are 1. Job costing. 2. Batch costing. 3. Process costing features. 4. Basics of process costing. 5. Losses. 6. Closing work in progress. 1. Job costing is a costing method that is used when each cost unit is separately identifiable. A job is a cost unit, which is made up of a single order or contract. The aim of job costing is to collect the following cost information: direct materials, plus direct labor, plus direct expenses, which equals direct cost. Direct cost, plus production overheads, which equals total production cost. Total production cost, plus administration overheads, plus selling overheads, which equals cost of sales. Cost of sales, plus profit markup, which equals the selling price of the job. A job is a product that is made according to the special requirements of a customer. So each job will usually be different from other jobs, and separate records need to be kept to show the details of each job. The work relating to a job is usually done within a factory or a workshop, and moves through the processes as a separate continuously identifiable unit. The normal procedure for performing a job is: first, a prospective customer approaches the business or supplier and indicates the requirements of the job. The supplier then agrees the precise detail of items to be supplied. The estimating department then prepares an estimate for the job. The total of the items in the estimate will be the quoted selling price. Once the customer agrees, and the materials, labor, and equipment are available, the job is loaded to the factory floor, and the job can be started. Each job is numbered, and a separate record is kept to show the details of each individual job. The process of collecting costs for a job may be as follows. Materials requisitions are sent to the store. The material requisition note that is sent to the store could be used to cost the materials that are used in the job, and may be recorded on the job cost sheet. The job ticket, the means of recording the time spent working on a job, is passed to the worker who is to work on the job first. Once that worker is done with their part of the job, the job ticket is passed on to the next worker, who needs to work on the job. Once the job is completed by the final worker, the job ticket is then sent to the cost office, where the time spent on the job is costed and recorded on the job cost sheet. The relevant costs of the materials issued, the direct labor performed, and direct expenses incurred, are recorded on the job cost card, and are charged to the job account in the work in progress ledger. The job account is debited with the job's share of the factory overheads, based on the absorption rate used. Once the job is complete, the job account is charged with the administration, selling and distribution overheads, so that the total actual cost of the job can be determined. The difference between the agreed selling price and the total actual cost will be the supplier's profit or loss. The job account is one of the accounts in the work in progress ledger. To see an example of a job account, see the example on page 142 of your interactive text study guide. When a job is completed, the job cost card is moved from the work in progress category to the finished goods, and when delivery is made to the customer, the costs become a cost of sale. For an example of a job cost card, see the example on page 143 of your interactive text study guide. Job cost cards exist in manual systems, but it is increasingly likely for a large business to make use of a computerized accounting system with software specifically designed for job costing systems, for their job costing system. Job costing systems can also be used to control the costs of internal service departments. 2. A batch is a cost unit, which is made up of a separate identifiable group of product units, which remain separate throughout the production process. The procedure for costing batches is very similar to the procedure used in costing jobs. The batch is treated as a job and the cost are collected as a job. Once the batch is completed, the cost per unit of the batch is calculated. The formula is, the total cost of the batch, divided by, the number of units in the batch, equals the cost per unit. For an example of batch costing, see the example on page 145 of your interactive text study guide. Stop the lecture. Answer the question on page 146 of your interactive text study guide. 3. Process costing is a costing method that is used when there are continuous processes, and the output is a continuous stream of identical units. The features of process costing include the following. Losses happen in a process due to wastage, spoilage, evaporation. The output of one process becomes the input of the next process until the finished product is made in the final process. The output from production may be a single product, but there also may be one or more byproducts, and/or joint products. Joint and byproducts are not part of MA1. 4. When dealing with process costing, there are 4 key steps to follow. Step 1. Determine output and losses. Determine output, calculate losses, and calculate equivalent units, if there is closing work in progress. Step 2. Calculate the cost per unit of output. Cost per unit, equals, cost, divided by, output. For an example of the cost per unit calculation, see the example on page 149 of your interactive text study guide. Stop the lecture. Answer the question on page 149 of your interactive text study guide. Step 3. Calculate the total cost of the completed output, and work in progress. This step is not required, if there is no work in progress. Step 4. Complete the accounts. Complete the process account and write up the other accounts that are required. 5. Losses are a loss of units due to wastage, spoilage, evaporation. An expected loss is a normal loss, and no cost is allocated, and the cost of production will be spread over the actual units of output. For an example on calculating and dealing with losses, see the example on page 150, 151 and 152 of your interactive text study guide. Stop the lecture. Answer the question on page 151 of your interactive text study guide. Stop the lecture. Answer the question on page 152 of your interactive text study guide. 6. When there are partly completed units at the end of a period, which is closing work in progress, you need to calculate the equivalent units, which are the whole units that represent the unfinished units, so that you can determine the cost of the units. Equivalent units, equals, the units that are incomplete, multiplied by, the percentage that they are complete. For an example on treating closing work in progress, see the example on page 153 to 155 of your interactive text study guide. In most industries, materials, labor, and overheads are added at different rates during the course of production. All the output from a previous process may be added to the next process, so that the closing inventory is 100% complete, in respect of those materials. Further materials may be added bit by bit during the process, so that the closing inventory may only be partially complete, in respect of those materials. Labor and overheads may be added at yet a different rate. In these cases, the equivalent units and the cost per unit should be calculated separately for each type of material, and conversion cost. A conversion cost is the total of labor and overheads. For an example of equivalent units and different degrees of completion, see the example on page 155 to 157 of your interactive text study guide. Stop the lecture. Answer the question on page 157 of your interactive text study guide. This is the end of Chapter 8. What will follow next is the quick quiz. After the quick quiz, do the online questions for Part D, Chapter 8. It will be good practice because the online questions are set out like the exam that you do at the end of the course. They will also test your knowledge of this chapter. Quick quiz. Question 1. Which of the following are not characteristics of job costing? 1. Customer-driven production. 2. Complete production possible within a single accounting period. 3. Homogeneous products. A. 1 and 2 only. B. 1 and 3 only. C. 2 and 3 only. D. 3 only. Question 2. How would you calculate the cost per unit of a completed batch? Question 3. A job cost estimate includes 630 productive labor hours. In addition, it is anticipated that idle time will be 10% of the total hours paid for the job. The wage rate is 12 Rand per hour. What is the total estimated labor cost for the job? A. 6,804 rands. B. 7,560 rands. C. 8,316 rands. D. 8,400 rands. Question 4. A firm uses job costing. Details of the 3 jobs worked on during a period are: for job BA, the opening work in progress is 22,760 rands, the direct materials in the period is 4,620 rands, and the direct labor in the period is 12,125 rands. For job DC, the opening work in progress is 3,190 rands, the direct materials in the period is 11,660 rands, and the direct labor in the period is 10,520 rands. For job FE, there was no opening work in progress, the direct materials in the period is 14,335 rands, and the direct labor in the period is 7,695 rands. Overheads are absorbed at 40% of prime cost in each period. Jobs DC and FE remained incomplete at the end of the period. What is the value of the closing work in progress? A. 61,894 rands. B. 65,084 rands. C. 66,360 rands. D. 68,952 rands. Question 5. Process costing is centered around 4 key steps. Step 1. Step 2. Step 3. Step 4. Question 6. When there is closing work in progress at the end of a process, what is the first step in the 4-step approach to process costing questions and why must it be done? Question 7. The following information relates to a production process for a period. Input costs, 194,860 Rand. Completed output, 11,400 units. Closing work in progress 1,200 units, 60% complete. There were no process losses or opening work in progress. What was the cost per unit for the process? A. 15 Rand and 47 cents. B. 16 Rand and 8 cents. C. 16 Rand and 40 cents. D. 17 Rand and 9 cents. After doing the quick quiz, do the online questions for Part D, Chapter 8. Do the questions, until you achieve 80%. Replay the lecture as needed.